Good afternoon. This is another one of our ongoing Anything app. The intention here is for this to be informal, so feel free to ask questions. Anytime they come up with something that's not clear or you want to make a comment. We're going to talk about at least two topics and then open up for discussion. The first topic will be this idea of independent judging, really versus self-judging in a way, but here in the context of the WE protocol, because I'm getting questions from people about doing independent judging in WE, so I will be talking about that. And this is related to the issue, the very important issue of our personal beliefs about precognition and displacement. And in fact, in the presentation, I've actually changed topic 2 to include displacement directly, because a lot of people want to move to independent judging because they feel perhaps the self-judging isn't quite working right for them. So we'll be talking about all of that. Now let's begin by just a little bit of background, which all of you really have, but just to set the context here of self and independent judging in the context of we, where really the only difference between normal ARV and we is that in we have built in two taskings with two coordinates as opposed to only one tasking with one coordinate. So this would be a typical tasking in we, where we would have two individual coordinates randomly chosen. These obviously aren't. And so notice, as always, from the viewer's perspective, this would be the tasking for the remote viewing session connected up with the feedback session. Now, in the background, there's always this issue of judging, because in ARV, you're doing the remote viewing session, connecting up to your future feedback session, and it takes an analysis and a judgment at some point in time to make a decision on we're doing it with two possible feedback photos. So it's the judging that becomes very, very critical here, and that's what we're talking about. Now, you've probably all seen this, but it makes so many good points that I'm going to show it again. This is what judging is not. I alone know the contents of this envelope. It's a charcoal drawing of a woodchuck eating a small orange. Nice try, you little fraud, but that's a long way from an ink drawing of a beaver eating a tangerine. So you cannot take the point of view of a skeptic that says it has to be perfect. We know our precognition is not perfect, and it's up to the judge to make judgments of whether or not the viewer in fact has made precognitive psychic contact, if you will, with the feedback target. Now, let's go right to it and let's talk about judging, whether it's independent or self-judging. In a moment, we'll get to the differences, and well, the differences are clear, but how you do it in we. But the judging itself, a judge will typically be given a transcript. Here's one which in fact comes from judging, which I did Wednesday, and this is the last page, but it was the most significant page. And so the analyst judge is faced with a transcript and two possible photos. So in we, just as any place else, you would first take one transcript. In normal ARV, that's all you would have. So right now we're doing it just as we would in normal ARV and in we. And you take a look, and there are different approaches to doing judging. The one that I'm now using, and the one I recommend, combines Joe McMonagle's approach of going through every single precept, everything which is put down on the page, and marking it as a yes, a no. I give it a point of a 0 or 1, and now even a half. And then you also take a look at the gestalt nature of the comparison. So looking at this transcript, the first thing I found was I couldn't read it all. And notice the types here is a judge will sometimes have to go back to the viewer and get explanation. So that's what we have here. So just roughly looking at this, if you look at these two and the transcript and you look for a match, expelling, expulsion, away from, maybe there's some sense of that. I don't know if any of you want to make comments about that. Certainly not a factory. We would give that a 0. I don't see any man-made in here. Rotation, maybe a little bit of rotation here. But generally, I think we would give this a relatively low score. On the 0 to 7 scale, I would not consider this and did not consider this wagerable. Probably didn't capture the gestalt, probably a 1 or something like that. I don't remember. Then you go look at the second picture and second photo site, because you can pick up things as if you were there, because your consciousness goes there. Well, now the first thing you notice is all the circles. You say, oh, well, we had multiple things back here. Factory, which didn't work well there, certainly works well here. Expelling, don't know. Expulsion, don't know. Away from, doesn't feel real good. But rotation. Encase rotation. This one gets pretty high marks. I think captured the factory, and the rotation, I think, captured the gestalt. So in normal ARV, you would stop there. You would give confidence rankings, a low one, a relatively high one, probably wagerable here, and you would go on your merry way. In we, there is a second transcript, because as I already discussed, you're given 2 taskings. This one is done totally independent of the other one, totally. In fact, I now recommend people wait an hour, half an hour. Someone wants to wait 15 minutes, whatever feels comfortable for them, but enough to get involved maybe in some other activities so that they now come back and they get their second coordinate and do a totally independent tasking. And that's what was done here. And this is then the second transcript. And now you're acting as a judge, but we uses the same 2 choices. Why not? It's still totally independent in terms of the viewer's perspective and in terms of the feedback that the viewer will see. The viewer is only going to see the correct feedback associated with each of the appropriate coordinate and transcript. So in this case, again, I had to get some words, but we had peaceful, we had shimmering, we had moving. We have here radiating waves, heat, away. That sure has a lot in common with this one now, doesn't it? And that's one of the parts about we which many of us really like, is you have an opportunity to get one good match, but also two good matches. And in this case, this looks like a real good match to this one right here, and a rather poor match to here. Maybe peaceful. I mean, somehow you don't really get the sense of peaceful, but right now it's peaceful. Let's give it a little credit. But I think you understand that here, this thing looks like waves. The points moving out look like the waves, says waves, radiating. This word was gaseous. Don't quite know what to do with that. I think that was sound. I didn't ask him about that, so at the time I thought I understood. But the point is, good match to the other one, which gives us a really good basis of now having done the judging. Okay, the judge's page is now here, and here is where I'm now going to describe how in we do the difference between self-judging and independent judging. In what we did before, it could have been either one, right? We just did the judging. In reality, what happens is, as a self-judge, you come to this page first in we, and you get your coordinates. You already you get your coordinates. This is how you then go away and you do your transcript. So this is the place you go to get your coordinate. That information comes in an email. You've got your coordinate now. You went away and did your transcripts. Your transcripts now, if you're doing self-judging, need to be put on your computer or on your smartphone. A lot of people are doing all this now on their smartphones, such that you can upload it. So you click a browse button and you take it from your computer or smartphone and you upload it to the app server. So now both of your transcripts are on the app server, and you hit the submit button, and what I'm going to show, well, here, maybe I'll show it to you. Let me show it to you now, as a matter of fact. I go back and forth. What you will then get is a page which, as a self-judge, has the picture of what's called photo side A, and then you click here and you get photo side B. Obviously, this was something else chosen randomly. So as a self-judge, you're completely self-contained, and you come from this same page where you got your coordinates, you upload, and then you click submit, and you got the two pictures. Now, what do you do if you're an independent judge? If you're an independent judge, now what you do is simply, notice you're the viewer, so you got your same two coordinates, but now what you do is you send your transcripts, instead of going through the browse situation, you send your transcripts to your judge. So you made an arrangement with the judge. You send the transcript off to the judge. The judge then uploads the transcripts from here. So he logs in with your name. So you give your judge your email address. He comes in as you, and he uploads it for you. And then he does the judging. So you, as a viewer, never see those two photo sites. Now, this here, please send your transcripts to Marty, was for someone that I am being the independent judge in the beta group, and I put this specifically on there for him. Generally, you will not see that, but what you will see is if you are working with an independent analyst judge, send your transcripts to her or him, and she or he will then upload it for you. So the viewer goes no further than this page, sends off the transcripts to the independent judge, and then the independent judge goes and does the judging. So the independent judge would then do the judging, and the judge's job is to fill in the confidence rankings, which he or she came up with by doing the comparisons, just like we did before. So we had two photo sites. In our case, there was the ocean and the factory, and we judged one transcript, and then we would use the drop-down menus for the first transcript and put in the 2 CRs here and the second transcript here. It's that simple. There's really kind of no more to it from the perspective of independent and self-judging. So is that clear before I go on? In fact, I think what I would like to do now is we have 7 people here, 6 of you. Let me see if I need to open up something, because what I would like to do now, oh, you know what, we can do this in the chat box. Maybe we should do this in the chat box. I'm just going to open up an Excel sheet, but are any of you interested in partnering up, either as a viewer or as a judge? I have one person who already told me that they would like to do judging, and I can just tell you from my own personal experience that judging is very both rewarding but also a very valuable learning experience for understanding precognition, because you really get into how other people's precognition works, and also kind of gives you ideas on how to improve your own. At least that's been the way for me. So how any of you want to in fact become independent judges, or would like to find an independent judge because you think it might help your hit rate or something?
Can I ask a question, Marty?
Please, of course.
Regarding judging, this is
Yes.
wonderful. So there will be several sets of records that the wonderful software will keep track of. Mm-hmm. Does the software now keep track of the judge as well? I mean, say, let's pretend that I say, oh, Marty, I want to do it, and I have a couple of viewers. One's going to do A and one's going to do B, and I'm going to judge it, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would come to you, and say, I would like to do independent judging, and you would somehow make it happen magically in the software, or what would that look like?
The only addition, and I have thought about that and I've started to do it, is on the comments page, after you put in the confidence ranking, right below what you saw is a submit button, but
Yep.
right before the submit button is a comment box. And what
Yep.
I put there is Marty, independent judge. Now I'm just saying IJing this, and then I put my judging comments, because that then gets shared with the remote viewer later.
Sure. And then the
So
remote viewer can see the comments as well. That's really good feedback for the remote viewer. It's right away.
correct. And my plan, and I haven't coded any of this yet, but my plan is that the symbol IJ along with the name would be enough for the analysis to connect up the viewer with the judge. Because I think your point may be, and it's certainly something which I think is relevant, that one viewer with one judge may have a different track record than one viewer with another judge, because judging is an important part of this, and you know, different judges may just be better or worse at it, in particular with a specific viewer. It might be that specific.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I would like to keep records on the viewer judge combination. And so far the way I'm doing that is just by putting the judge's name and IJ, or independent judge, in the comment box.
It's like having a little mini group, a little mini RV group. It's just a pair.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then their data as a pair could be kept separately.
Yeah. It's a great idea. It's amazing that it can even be done. It's amazing.
Well, it's just, step by step, getting to where you have we and saving all the data. This is just one more step.
Yep. It keeps getting better.
So anybody interested in doing this in we or otherwise? In fact, I see that Deborah is here, and she's coupled up with Chris doing independent judging in normal ARV. So, this is AnythingAPP. If someone were to say to us, hey, gee, I really need to find a judge, well, I'd like to judge for a while, I'd really like to find a viewer, now's the time to do it. And those of you that will be listening to the webinar, just email me and just ask that, and we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Marty, I would be interested in judging, just to take a look at other people's stuff. It's interesting to me, but I find that I tend to want to do everything, and I have to be very, very careful about what I take on, so I don't load myself down with too much work. But just perusing over somebody's work and assigning it a value. I mean, I don't mind doing that. I can be impartial, and I have a certain amount of skill set that maybe I could apply to it that could help.
Okay, so are you saying you're willing? I would say to do this in we will probably take 15 to 20 minutes of focused time. I would like you to do it, and I would teach you this technique, but you wouldn't have to. You're the judge. You and the remote viewer would have to work out the technique, but you're willing to do that. Say 15, 20, who knows, a half an hour, maybe at most, I would say, to do the 2 transcripts.
Yeah, because I find myself less and less able to get to the we protocol, the Winner Chicken Dinner and Omega. I haven't been able to get to those 2 groups or submit anything to those groups in weeks, because I just have a lot of stuff going on. So maybe I could contribute by helping to be a judge, and and can go happy.
But you see, if you're making that commitment, especially, you see, it's one thing when you're a self-judge to say, gee, I just don't have time. But if you're coupling with a remote viewer, you're now making a commitment. Now, maybe that'd be a good thing for you because you would now commit to doing it, where it was pretty easy to just simply not submit. But you do have to be willing to commit to that, Shane. You know, before I hook you up with the viewer, I want to know that you're willing to make this commitment for, you know, a reasonable length of time. It's not forever. But I think the viewer would want to know that, hey, let's do this for 5, 10 times, and then we can talk and, you know, see how it's working.
Sure, I don't mind doing that as long as it's maybe, you know, in the middle of the week. That would be great. Okay. Then I have my other group that I'm still working on ramping up right now. I'm not sure how much time it's going to take for me with that one. So you're absolutely right. It is a bit of a commitment, especially when somebody else is depending on me.
That's right.
So yeah, with that, we probably should talk about this a little bit more in the future after my group's up and probably running. But I would be willing to do it to judge for people. I'm only hesitant because I have just the other stuff going on right now.
I understand, and that's all of us have to integrate this ARV precognition work into our lives. And it sounds like I have you on the list, but I think I should take you off, Shane, frankly.
You could have me on there as tentative or emergency backup.
Okay, that's just what I'll put here, emergency backup. But that isn't really, I think what we're looking for here, and I think it's really useful for variety and things like that, is to set up people as pairs who are really looking to work together, you know, for a reasonably long period of time. It might even be worth doing even if the self-judging is working, just for variety. But I think in your case, it sounded like it's really marginal. But that's my take on this, Shane.
I'm still developing, you know, relationships with folks, and
yeah.
The other project that I'm doing, like I said, I'm not sure how much of that time is going to take from me. I mean, in the short term, right now, I'm concentrating on all of the stuff that I've done and trying to get it into a coherent package that I could present to people coming up. So I've been really very, very busy with things, and I'm realizing that sometimes I have to be very careful about what I promise myself out to. But something like just
I know you're just so tentative. I put you on the list, and I just put emergency, tentative, and let's just leave it at that. And when I talk to remote viewers, if there are a lot of remote viewers that want to do this, maybe you and the remote viewer and I will all talk together.
Yeah, because it's only a few minutes to really go through somebody's session work and make a determination whether or not it matches up with a certain picture.
Well, and you see, if the viewer is happy with that, then I think we could find a match. Me, if I were the viewer, I would want you to use, and you see, and this is part of the whole thing in finding good fits, I would want you to use this other technique, and I think it isn't right for you. Okay, so I understand.
Yeah, you know, as far as the we protocol goes, I'm not really the best spokesperson on it. I do well with it. I just do everything opposite. Everything that I get is opposite for some reason.
That's the whole displacement issue that we'll be talking about next.
Okay.
But okay, but anybody else now? Is there anybody here who either wants to be a judge or wants to?
Well, Marty, what if one of us developed, or like myself, developed a local person to do judging? Would you want to be involved in training that person, or would you rather just let it happen?
There was too much background noise, Bill. Could you say that again? I think you said if you could find someone.
I'm sorry about the background noise. If I were to develop someone locally to do judging for me, would you?
Oh, that would be terrific. If you could find someone local, I mean, with we, you would probably still do the same protocol, but then it would be real easy to, you know, go and ask questions. You wouldn't have to use email or, you know, text or stuff like that. I think that would be great. And that person wouldn't even have to be a
Okay,
remote
thank you.
viewer.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I think it's a good idea. I'll try that.
Yeah.
But it'll be a while before it happens.
Yeah. In fact, you could just get a person who's interested in this and say, yeah, I think that would be great. No, I think that would be great. So, yeah, that's terrific. Go see if you can do that, Bill. That'd be wonderful. But if you want to have somebody at a distance, if that doesn't work, you know, just let me know. But it doesn't sound like you're ready to be put on the list yet. Anybody else?
No.
Or do you want to be put on the list now? Do you want me to? I'm going to assume no, unless, you know, you can email me or whatever. At this point, try to find someone local. That'd be great. That would also interest somebody else in doing this. Okay, fair enough. It looks like.
Can I ask just two very short ones? Is it possible once there's a pair or a, I could imagine this actually, I mean, Sublime could do it. It's not now, but as a few things drop off the plate, it would be very fun to have several people do photo A and a different group do photo B, and then the judge submits it as one. I can see the potential here is just really fun. Is it possible for a couple, a judge and a viewer couple, to practice a few times without it going into the records?
I would say the way to do that is, especially as a couple, is to, in the comment box, say this is a practice session, and so we set the CR is equal to 0 or something like that. That would be the way to practice.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then you'd be able to go through the whole thing. Yeah, including you would get, you know, the event is still defined, so you get the proper feedback and anything. Yeah, so that would be the way to do that.
Okay, okay, good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? And again, at this point, now that we've sort of introduced this in this open fashion, anytime anybody decides they want to do this, just simply send me an email. And as I said, I'll then work to find a match, either the judge or, you know, a viewer if you want to be the judge. Okay, so now, let's get to what I believe is probably one of the most important topics around, and that has to do with your personal beliefs about precognition and displacement. In fact, when I first wrote this, with just saying precognition, it was like I thought it would be obvious to almost everybody that that immediately meant displacement. And the reason is so clear to me, going back, God, it's got to be 15, 16 years now, when I first started getting into this ARV business. It seemed to me that what was going to happen was pretty obvious, that you were sometimes going to get good matches, you know, and the judge would be able to match one of the pictures quite well, since you're only seeing it as feedback. In those days, there was no independent judging. It was just assumed that you would do self-judging because it was obvious that the viewer wouldn't want to see the two choices. I mean, there were so many beliefs that seemed so obvious at the time, and self-judging being the only being wrong self-judging being wrong just seemed obvious. You didn't even think about it, that you had to have an independent judge that would look at the two photos. And then the viewer would either get noise or, yes, I made the connection, and would get the right picture. Well, it turned out all of those early beliefs were wrong. Self-judging works fine for some people, thank you. And it is possible for a viewer to get a really good description of a picture he never sees. Those were things which you just didn't really think about. I didn't think about when we first got into this. And so this whole thing has gotten me to, and also all the work I've done afterwards in trying to understand even the physics of it, being a physicist and all that, has gotten my belief system, the deepest part of my belief system, is connected with this statement right here, which is consciousness is the fundamental, And what you're going to hear from me, and what you've been hearing from me for a long time, is now coming from this perspective, from this belief system, which is based on the fact that the consciousness deep down is a fundamental to all of our experiences of the physical world, our precognition experiences, everything that we experience in our life is based on the fact that consciousness is the fundamental. Now, here's something which I don't know, is sort of around with all of us right now, and it's one of the reasons we're talking about this, which is, what is your belief? What is my belief about why isn't my precognition better? And so this is sort of the context of what we'll be talking about here. And I found a few quotes, which I think are a little bit more general than this, but quite relevant here. What we can or cannot do, what we consider possible or impossible, is rarely a function of our true capability. It is more likely a function of our beliefs about who we are and what we can do. I'm going to have more to say about our beliefs about who and what we can do, because I think we most often self-limit ourselves. Now, this comes from Henry Ford. I just happened to come across this one. What he said is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I would just simply change that to, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. And how much better you believe you can get has a lot to do with how much better indeed you will get. And I want to say another word about better. We do quantitatively put an enormous amount of focus on hit rate, and I believe that's appropriate, because I do believe you need quantitative measures of things. However, there's other aspects to that, which even though your hit rate may stay exactly the same, you may have this feeling that you are getting better at colors. You're getting better at other things. You're just feeling better about your precognition, and that's terrific too. So I don't want to take anything away about own personal feelings which are separate from the hit rate. Now, one of the things which I found out very early, and in fact everybody I'd see on this list probably has already experienced this in one fashion or another, is that even with independent judges, there is displacement. Early on, that was really kind of a surprise to me. When I saw a really good match to a photo site that the viewer not only hadn't seen yet as a judge, but I knew would never see because I wasn't going to show it to them, it was kind of a shocker. And I must say, in some ways, a expansion of my consciousness, because what it does is it broadens your appreciation of consciousness and precognition. I mean, here there is a viewer who the day before, hours before, done the session, the choices were chosen after he did his transcript, and here I am looking at him now, and I see maybe something like this. And this is a case from the past where they're full transcripts, but I'm doing this just to make a point, that I'm sitting here as a judge, and I see this is one of the choices, and I see one transcript from one viewer. This was a case where we had multiple viewers going after the same target, but there were the same two choices. So here's one viewer. Okay, you understand that? You know, we've done this. In fact, some of the groups are doing this now, where there's just one target, and they'll have 5, 6, 7 viewers all going after that one target. But of course, the judge has 2 to look at. So this was one of those situations. And here, and this was one that I was facing, here is a case where one of the targets was this, and look at this transcript, something cylindrical, and with this sketch showing the dark, 2 dark marks. I mean, and there was more that matched this. This was like a 4 or a 5. And then a separate transcript had this in it plus more, but this just shows the horse, okay, says horse. So you're sitting here as a judge and you go, oh my God, one of these people are going to get a really good hit, but the other is going to get a miss, and a miss at the level that I'm willing to call a displacement. When I get a confidence ranking of a 5, 6, that's displacement. At the level of 4, maybe the judge didn't do it right or something like that. But when it's a 5 or a 6, a legitimate 5, that's displacement. So this was kind of educational way, way, way back, that independent judging, you can have displacement. So, and this is a real example. And I do remember this one turned out to be the hit that was displaced, but this was an excellent session. Here's a different kind of displacement. This one happened Wednesday. In fact, Nancy and Deborah are here. This is a case, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, where Deborah was doing a viewing for one of the APPI groups, a group for me, and it was being independently judged by Chris, but this is her transcript. However, the next morning, before she even got the results of this, the next morning, she got the results back from a Sublime transcript she had done, a different transcript than this. And this was what she got as feedback. And so what she did here is, in what she did for APPI, she went to and did a very nice displaced precognitive description of this target. So that's a different kind of displacement. And had nothing to do with judges. It had to do with her consciousness picking up what was coming in the next morning. And we've talked about this. She's sent emails, and the way she thinks her inner tasking was to sort of get the next picture that I'm going to get. In other words, not leave multiple feedback sessions open and things like that. So in some cases, you can actually understand the displacements intellectually. But, okay, so this is just another example of a displacement that did not have any judge involved.
Can I ask a question about this one, since there are the three of us on this one? This one kind of blew my mind. I loved it when I found out what had happened, which is probably a bad thing when you're trying to do feedback, but it was still
right.
It was amazing that she drew this airplane on this transcript that wasn't for this event. I mean, it was kind of fun. So so taking the amazement out of it, the feedback picture that she actually saw for the event for this transcript that matches this transcript, which wasn't this picture. I mean, isn't she getting feedback right now? I mean, we're giving her feedback right now, and she's watching this, and we're all looking at it. So, but the question that I have is this: I'm pointing to this transcript on the left side. What was the feedback picture that went with that? Did it have a little star shape, or did it have an airplane in it, or what was the feedback for that?
No, I don't remember, but I do remember that it was a low score and she ended up getting a pass.
You know what?
No, wait, is that right? Or was this the one which was a hit?
Nancy, this was the sublime target.
Yes.
And so the night I did, like,
this was the lively, yeah, the sublime on a lively target.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did the target. I did the session for Chris like at 11 o'clock. You know, I had done the sublime one the day before, and then I did this at 11 o'clock when I was really tired, and I was feeling like I was kind of all over the place. And then on my page 4, I was like, I know I'm viewing something. And so I told Chris, you know, if my page 4 matches my session, then, you know, go with that, because there's a reason I'm getting this strong. But then the sublime photo came in, yeah, like first thing in the morning. So that was the first thing I saw. But thinking about it, your question was just like, well, what was the right one? And I just realized I don't think Chris sent me the right photo.
He didn't, and he sent me a text that said, which way did it go? And I hadn't got back to him on it yet. So you don't even have the feedback from that one yet.
But look what we're looking at, and she's looking at it.
I understand. This reinforces it, and that's, I think, part of our current belief system is stuff like this does happen, and it's a strange kind of precognition, which we know happens. You know, and one of our tasks is to learn how to reduce it, and we should talk about that. But I wanted to give another. Okay, so Nancy, right? She can't give you an answer yet because she doesn't know what the right one is, and neither do I. And I have to get back to Chris and tell him which way it went. I did actually tell him. But nevertheless, let me give you one other example, because this happens way too often, and it also, I think, gives us insights into what's going on here. And that is, a person will tell me that, oh my God, I describe some sort of significant event that happened to them the next day. or something that was in the next day's newspaper. And that happened to come from a person who in the past had spent a lot of time trying to describe what was going to happen in tomorrow, front page of tomorrow's newspaper, that sort of thing. There are other kinds of displacement besides judging displacements. And I have a feeling that sometimes when, as a judge, a judge gets a poor match to both of them, that actually might be a type of displacement. When a remote viewer is trying to remote view a target and gets something else, maybe they actually went someplace else and did a good job, but you would never know it. We do not understand how consciousness gets focused. And that's one of the most significant challenges for the remote viewers, is to do the task. One of the things which is wonderful about ARV is the tasking is clear. The viewer knows there will be a time when that coordinate will be associated with the feedback target, the feedback photo site. And getting consciousness to focus on that event, the feedback event, is what we're all about. We are now trying to get our arms around, if you will, precognition. Okay? What I want to do now is connect this with our belief systems, because we're in the context of people who have experience doing this. I'm not talking to newbies. And I think it's okay to talk about displacement. I've gone through, this issue comes back over and over again for many, many years. And there was a while, just like what you were talking about here, Nancy, that we're encouraging it more. And I always used to say to the viewers that if you displace, from now on, I am not going to tell you about it, because they got happy. Just like you, we sort of encouraged it and thought maybe we lit this up here. And that may be true. On the other hand, as you get more seasoned and sophisticated, I now will tell a viewer that I think they displaced. I won't give them the picture. I don't want to make too big a deal out of it, because I want to talk about it in a neutral fashion. But and I think that's important, because you don't want to bring in a lot of emotions, and certainly not, hey, at least I'm psychic. That's what you want to avoid. But we need to get to the point where the viewers can, in fact, improve their focus to the feedback part. And that's our objective here. All of us want, in fact, to get better. Now, what we've seen over and over, and what I've seen over and over, are people who have these belief systems, which I think are sometimes very limiting. For example, it was a poor target. Sort of, and I'm saying this rather directly, making excuses. Why? I really liked one target in the pair much better than the other. That's why I went to it. Well, and you know something? They believe that that's possible, and maybe that's why it happened. I mean, the fact they're using it as an excuse, doesn't that mean that they believe that this could be something which limits them? You see what I'm saying here? There is a connection between having this come up into your consciousness and therefore having your consciousness have that belief that there really can be targets which are much poorer than others. Wouldn't a much better belief system be? I could get any target. um, Ingo Swann got 2 different kinds of graph paper at the 80% level. That's the kind of belief system you want to develop. I can't do any better than I am, and that's good enough. And you want to know something? There's nothing wrong really with that belief. If you're very happy with it, that's fine. In fact, there's nothing wrong with any of these beliefs. They're your beliefs. I don't want to judge them for you. They're your beliefs. But if you look at them and you even just sort of intuitively look at them or intellectually look at them, you might want to change them because it's affecting your precognition. That's my belief. Because what's coming up is what's deep down in your consciousness. And it's your consciousness that's the fundamental. Training doesn't work, right? We've had so many discussions about that at different levels. Well, maybe people have heard that, and at some level they say, okay, so it must be impossible for me to train myself to get any better. Now, you know, it's sort of easy to mix up where some people say training doesn't work, and they mean who knows what, different kinds of things. I happen to believe that training of yourself does work. And learning the fundamentals from a good teacher, you need to understand that, and you need to understand all the kind of things that we've been talking about for so long in terms of getting up to a certain level. But I believe after that level, you can continue to get better. Any part of your belief system which has in it, it's impossible for me to get better, is self-limiting. Here's a very interesting one, and my ego purposely described the wrong outcome because it wants to be in charge and does not want the changes in my life that would be associated with my having an 80% hit rate. Now that happens to be something which has crossed my mind. And it's almost something which I think is part of what's going on, at least with me. And becoming aware of that, I mean, this is something which I am working on right now. This idea of, look, I intellectually know that an 80% hit rate makes it really easy to make a lot of money. I mean, you can do stupid things and still make a lot of money at an 80% hit rate. It's just the way it is. If somebody can get 80 out of 100 hits, and you don't even have to use a 20% of your bankroll, use a 10%. You'll make a lot of money. That will change my life. Now, intellectually, I want that to happen, but who knows? Maybe I'm not ready. Another terrible limiting thought of mine is that, gee, maybe society is not ready. And I'm sharing all of this with you because a very positive part of the work we're all doing, and for me in particular, is that these beliefs come up from deeper consciousness up to the conscious mind so you can look at them and work with them. And that's what I'm suggesting that you do, that we all do. It's part of the communication issue with your subconscious, which is so valuable, which is what precognition is all about, but it's also kind of what life is all about, because you live your life to a large extent based on your belief system. And looking at your belief system as stuff comes up and encouraging that to happen, I think is very important. Another one is rich people are bad. I think a lot of people have that. Especially in America, you hear Wall Street is bad and this is bad and the people with money are bad. And so, gee, do I really want to have a lot of money if, is that going to make me a bad person? I don't think I have that belief system, frankly, but this one did come up. Okay, so I hope you get the point there, and I can just tell you, it's hard to say this to you all, but you have in your belief systems, I believe, some of these negative self-limiting kind of beliefs, and a lot of them are subtle. And you just need to look for them. That's my belief. Now, how about what I see as more positive kinds of beliefs? I am responsible for my displacement. When displacement occurs, it's me. And I will continue to reduce its happening to almost zero. I'm committed to recognizing that this is an issue. Might very well happen again, but if it does, I'm going to work on reducing it, and I'm not going to blame anything else because there is really nothing else to blame. It's the whole issue of consciousness, which I'm connected to, so it's my responsibility. And I'm going to take displacement, when it does occur, as a signal, as a motivator for me to go deeper, to go and be deeper in communication with my subconsciousness. I mean, when this happens, it's almost like my subconsciousness is giving me a message. It's trying to tell me something. It is almost like it did it on purpose. I mean, it's too good to be random. Why would it describe the wrong target? Okay, now I like this whole point of view because it feels very robust to me. It's, and I believe, so this gets the belief system, that this robustness is where I want to be because I think it'll be helpful for making me a better remote viewer, a better precog, a better all of these things, because I'm now using these instances of displacement to go deeper into this primary issue of communication between my consciousness and my subconsciousness. I want to accept that I am a professional precogger. I am, okay? And that's a good thing. I will become and continue to be more aware of my subtle beliefs and be open to changing them if I feel it is the best for me. Notice I'm now couching all of these in a very personal fashion, and I urge all of you to try to think that way, do those sort of things. Take on this belief system aggressively and recognize that it is so important. And then this one, here I am looking at beliefs, watching them, and yes, I'm willing to judge them, I'm willing to use them, and I'm willing to change them. Okay? I'm open to changing them if I feel it'll be best for me. Well, as I do that, I will be consistent with my beliefs. Now, this one is, whether you like it or not, most of the time you are. It's just automatic. You do things without really thinking about them, without knowing it, and you just behave consistent with your belief. You see something and you like it, you don't like it. Well, that has a lot to do with your belief system. But in the ARV area, what is so interesting, and I'll admit this for me, and I'm pretty sure it's true for most of you, I will make up my mind about something, and I'll say things like, if it's marginal, I'm going to pass, or I'm not going to give it that 3.5, and make it wagerable because, you know, it's marginal. And you know what? I'll go ahead and do it anyway. I will have said things to myself which I believe are right, and then I won't do it. So going along with all of this is, as you are changing your beliefs, watch the discipline with them, and this is particularly true and gives you an opportunity to do this in the context of ARV. I think that where you had said something to me the other day where there was something that you believed and that you found yourself going against it. And watch that. That's part of kind of the growth process here that we're all in, which will in fact improve our precognition at both the hit rate and deeper levels. Now, for some, displacement isn't a big deal. And in spite of everything I've said and how much you can use it, you have to know you don't want to get hung up on it. You want to use it to your advantage. And there's some group, and a group approach seems to be working quite well, at least for WWC Dinner. This is their hit rate chart, which the red is cumulative, right? Hits divided by hits plus misses, ignoring passes. This is cumulative. So over 90 sessions, they have a 70% hit rate. There are passes in here as well, the flat areas of passes. Then the blue is just the last 10 non-passes averaged. So you can see it jumps 80%, 70%. They're up at 100% now. Their last 10 have all been hits. And then the green is a 25-day moving average, and they are indeed at 80%. So they just recently got up. And that's what I consider staying up at 80% is, in my belief system, what I've set up now as kind of a major objective. Is 100% possible? Maybe, but when there's a miss, there are a lot of reasons, and some of them have nothing to do with displacement. They have to do with bad judging. They have to do with the person having a bad day. They have to do with even some chance. You know, if a monkey were to do remote viewing and draw something on a sheet of paper, you know, who knows how often they might get something that would match a random card. So there's a lot going on here. So right now, 80% is what I feel is a very good, achievable goal that brings up all the right issues. And here's a viewer that's not at 80%, but their 25-day, you know, is at 70%. And I think they will hopefully oscillate right now around 70% and then work their way up to 80%. I'd like to see that. They had 10 hits in a row up here as well. But we don't expect 100%. And so we expect the blue curve, you know, to go up and down like that. So clearly, displacement is not one of those issues that is insolvable. people who are solving it now. Here's belief system issues for you to ponder a little bit. Someday precognition will be recognized as an ordinary thing. I showed this in an earlier webinar. Mother Teresa had said to do ordinary things with extraordinary love. I believe someday precognition will be recognized as an ordinary thing done with extraordinary love. Because I, as we've talked about in earlier webinars, do believe that from the future is where we're getting this information, and with it is coming good feelings, love, all those kinds of really good things that were associated with the syntropy idea, which we talked about in the earlier webinar. Now, what I find very interesting about getting into the mode where this becomes ordinary is not everybody likes that perspective because they always want to get real excited about it. And you know what? I understand that very well. And I believe for a long time that's going to remain the case. But I do believe someday this will be recognized. There will be a million professional precoggers out there doing things for different people at lots of different levels. And it'll just be accepted. The people that have extraordinary talent in that area will be the ones who will be getting the jobs. And what will the world be then? And I'm starting to think more and more about that, and I think we should have some webinars on that because it will be a different world. And getting a sense of what that world will be like, I believe, is part of the whole process. And I believe we're the ones to do it. You know, who else is going to do it? It's just us guys. You know, there are not very many of us who are involved in this general area. So thinking about what that future will be like, I believe, is important. This is the syntropy concept, and this gets to how important do you really believe feedback is? Are we, in fact, having information go both ways? And this is an area where you get to test your beliefs. I think intellectually, all of us believe it's important. Just because where in the hell else did the information come from? But how do you show that? How deeply do you believe it? Do you believe it deeply enough that you really spend time here? Or do you fall back to what a lot of us do, and certainly have done in the past? I hope we're doing less and less of it, which is, it's over, it's great. Oh yeah, that was my picture, I did a good job, and that's the end of it. Where you don't take to heart, if you will, the fact that this is where the source of the information that you are being back here with the remote viewing session. Okay, so these are like tests, and you can look at yourself as you're doing this, which is wonderful because all of this is part of the growth of working with your communication between your subconsciousness and your consciousness. Your consciousness is the here and now. Your subconsciousness is all of that for your whole life. Do you believe that you have this, and it's the future you that is working with you in this here and now, and part of the journey, because it is a journey. And that's my last paragraph. I like that paragraph. And feeling that we're coming, each of us, personally, coming from a place which will just be more and more like this, where our future, where we deeply have this, is what is communicating with us now. Having that belief and making it self-consistent with all of our other beliefs is extraordinarily important, fun, and that is the journey, the precognitive journey. Okay, with that I'll stop. Questions, comments? You're all so quiet. Nancy, you always have something to say. Talk to me.
Okay. Thanks, Marty. So here's my thought on displacement. Back on the limiting belief screen, I think, well, the first thing that struck me was bad targets. They were inconsistent targets. Was the target is poor. I think that is such a thinking error. I think probably target picking can be poor, maybe 1 out of every 250 of them, but I don't think that happens. I think it's a focus thing. But I wanted to say, over time, with Sublime, which we've been together now for a while, we've gone through several series of different types of strategies and protocols, and we've had a lot together. We kind of, you said the word seasons, and that all of these thinking errors that we have about displacement, we can't help it. It is our belief system. But when we start to look at it, it's kind of we go through them. We work through them over time. It might take more than one event, but we come out of it on the other side. It's through a season. We go through a series of them, looking at them. And so there's hope in that as we work through our misbeliefs. Our belief system gets stretched. It takes a while, but sometimes it's real quick, but it's not forever. And marveling sometimes we will have the whole, this doesn't happen very often, maybe once a year, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes our whole group hits the wrong side, and that's always shocking. But we have to categorize that in I don't know, let's keep moving. I don't know what caused that. It's beyond what I can figure out. Who knows? It could have been something in the electromagnetic alignment of the planets. We don't know. No, but keep moving, and we work through those. It doesn't stick forever. Once we're stretched, we're stretched. we move through them.
Let me, Nancy, comment on that, because there are, and there always will be, in my belief, mysteries. Yes, and that's part of the beautiful part of it. And I think that's part of almost the robustness of using displacement. It gets you to ponder, how could that happen? Isn't that amazing? Yeah. This idea, and I'll say it, of a higher self, of all that is. There's stuff bigger than anything that we're grasping going on here. And it's moments like that when you sort of almost get to touch that, Yeah. So, and all of this, and maybe I didn't say this strong enough, all of this is attitudinal. What's your attitude towards this? And what you were just talking about is just right. You move on. And you certainly don't want to look at it as being so negative and holding you back. And that's got to be part of what's going on. So that's great. Deborah, you have any comment you want to add here?
I
She
think
left for
Deborah,
a meeting.
yeah, she
Yeah,
was,
Deborah took off.
Oh,
Note
she
at the
left.
bottom of the chat.
Okay. Anybody else? Alexis?
I mean, those are all good points, but I'm looking at the guest list, and I'm pretty sure most of us agree with it for the most part. Yeah.
Are you doing it? In some ways, I was hoping this would be motivational, and people that listen
Right.
to this, it's like that's where the discipline comes in.
Right, right. I guess I'm still trying to get back into remote viewing, and it's just hard because there's so much distraction, and that's just
Yeah. Okay.
the whole nature of it. Yeah, I was interested in. I came in this webinar just because I wanted to see if there has been any like progression of um, like judging wise. Yeah, I don't know. I was just in here just to see what's up.
Okay. Well, the judging wise, at least for me, and I'm encouraging others to move to this new system, which I think will have less variability, but there's still variability in it. And I did a webinar where I discussed it, and if you want to know more, we can do it offline. But it basically is based on Joe McMonagle's approach, and
Right.
with some small modifications, and then a connection to 0 to 7, just because we have so much data. So, okay, how about Bill? Do you still have a lot of background noise, or you have any comments?
Oh yeah, there's lots of back.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I
And
mean,
how
there was
about
a bunch.
Powell? Would you have anything to?
Yes, it's a really interesting webinar. I'm glad I was able to join. Actually, I was taking a long lunch break to be able to listen to discussion. I have something that I really wanted to share with everyone. This is an idea I learned from from a viewer that I work on a couple of operational projects. Basically, I think it may be really interesting to use it with displacement. I strongly believe like displacement is like subconscious mind gives us an idea and shows us I'm here, I can help, but I want you to listen to me. There's some kind of message or something that we have to, work on to, so the subconscious mind and conscious mind, can work together. So this viewer, what she did, actually, she created a diagram for stop what you do and basically start. I have something important to tell you. She was working on some projects and she was on practice targets and she was completely off for a couple of sessions, and at the end she learned that actually that information that was off, that was some kind of precognition information that the subconscious mind wanted to pass to conscious mind. So she created a diagram for stop what you do now and I have something important that I want to say to you. And as soon as she was getting some kind of diagram like this during the regular session, she stopped the session and was doing session about what do you want to tell me. So this is just an idea because I haven't tried with associate remote viewing, but maybe if we get this displacement too often, that you said that, oh, this is a perfect match, but this is for displacement. Maybe it's a good way to try just to find this communication between subconscious mind and conscious mind and see what kind of problem the subconscious mind has, so it doesn't want to cooperate and give us the data that we want. I'm willing to start doing those associate remote viewing sessions as soon as I'm done with my operational work. I have like a lot of stuff on my plate, at work and at home, but I just want to share with everyone. Everyone can try it on their own, or maybe see if there will be anything interesting over time to share with other viewers.
No,
but
that's very interesting. To actually, now there's see, that's really robust. A person actually made an ideogram coming from the belief system, from the point of view that the only reason it wasn't giving them the information that it wanted at the, top level, at the tasking level, was because there was something more important it wanted to share. And it made a ideogram for it. What a good idea.
So from our conscious mind, point of view, the most important is outcome. From this different level of communication, this is like, maybe not important at all. There's something else that we should work on. And, because this communication doesn't work, maybe subconscious mind tries to just pay attention to me, pay attention. I want to say you do something, but we don't get what really the information is about to be passed, what the subconscious mind wants from us. So I don't know, maybe it will increase the level of, of accuracy as soon as you try to go over those grudges and try this communication to go through. I don't know. I haven't worked on it a lot, but I get a couple of those ideograms myself and do a couple of sessions on my own, and, it was pretty interesting information. Yeah. But, you do fully polluted session on yourself. So, how much information, how much, it's difficult to figure it out. What is the data that the subconscious mind pushes to you, or what is your imagination? That's something you as a viewer have to work on. But it comes only with practice. And she told me a couple of interesting ideas that I'm trying to work on. But this ideogram idea, just stop what you do now, listen to what I want to tell you. It's really, I think everyone should try to do it.
Well, plus I would add, yes, I think that's a terrific idea. But also, if you're kind of stuck with displacement, or maybe just stuck in getting passes after pass, where you're getting information, maybe that's another way.
That's a great idea, yeah.
And now, why don't you go ahead and have a separate remote viewing session? I mean, this would be motivation now. Oh, you know what? Maybe my sub is trying to tell me something. I haven't done a ideogram yet, so maybe it's, and get quiet, task yourself, and yes, in fact, I'm not really even sure how front-loaded it is, because you're talking from a perspective of there's something new that I don't know that my subconscious is trying to tell me. Let me get quiet and let me just be open and do an RV session where all you do is listen. Right? I mean, that's what you do with your RV. You're listening to your sub. So specifically doing a remote viewing session where the tasking is subconscious, tell me what you want to tell me. I think that is a terrific idea.
It's deeper truth. It's getting a deeper truth out of the session. It's really important. They're just really smart.
You're using the displacement in a very positive way.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Self-knowledge.
Okay, and Shane, you have any comments? That's all here about what's going on here?
About, about displacement. I mean, I've experienced it just like everybody else has. I still am not sure exactly why it happens. I'm just aware that it can happen. It's ARV is very fascinating to me, but at the same time, it brings up so many questions about what we do. In the Lively group, see, this won't pertain to we. What I'm about to say will not pertain to we because we see both pictures anyway. But with the Lively group, we had Mark Samuelson would stack our transcripts on one side or the other of over or under for the event that we were looking at. And then he would show us the scores before, when the prediction was made, but he chose the scores without our names. So we would know who stacked to what side or how many viewers stacked to each particular side. And the times that I missed, it occurred to me that let's say if I drew the picture of a building and the actualized feedback was a mountain that I would see later on. By seeing that score beforehand, subconsciously, I would know what both pictures were. And I began to displace quite a bit after that, and I mentioned it to Mark, and he eventually took down those scores at the time of prediction. I was thinking that it was my own, I don't know, ego or even the subconscious, one of those two, were messing around trying to let me know, trying to appease me and let me know what both pictures were. Are you following me on that? To where
Well,
I am.
yeah, yeah. And
if I described one, but I saw the other, deep down inside, I know what both of those pictures are. Now, with we, I'm already seeing both pictures. Why am I switching the coordinates? I was wondering when I first started, in what order do I do the coordinates, or can I choose the coordinates in any order? Maybe as a viewer, I might feel like I just want to do the second coordinate first, and but I was asked not to do that. So I would like to mess with that a little bit and just be a little bit more casual about how I approach a we experiment, and try and cut myself a break on being so rigid about it, you know.
Jane, the viewer is in charge. So
Okay.
if that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. And secondly, I'm getting a sense that, what you might be just right for. You talked about, hey, maybe I want to be a judge. Maybe, maybe you also want to be a viewer that doesn't see both pictures.
Yes.
And I could see a wonderful pairing where you get two people who feel that way. One judges for the other. So each of you judge for each other, but you also do remote viewing. And so you really get to know each other, and you get to talk about all these things. I think that would be a wonderful relationship.
I'm going to try and integrate that into my group. Where
Yeah, if you could
you
find...
actually the viewer.
Marty, if there were two people, like how you just said it, viewing and judging for each other, does that put the feedback loops out of order? Can that mess up with the orderness?
You see, that's that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a belief system again, which I don't believe that at all. You do two feedbacks at exactly, one right after another. So they are close together, and you see examples of people and groups who are up at the 70–80% level.
Sure.
So this idea of, gee, you have to not have them intersect, they have to be, one coordinate has to be totally independent from the other coordinate, is just not true. But people have that belief system, and it might affect them.
So that negates that picture that Deborah drew of the airplane for the wrong event.
Right. I told her, and I'll tell you, it's my belief that, well, but there were other things going on there too, because she also said the soonest one in her mind.
That's right.
Which that was, as opposed to...
and she just got it just now too. Yeah.
As opposed to independent. But nevertheless, I believe it's the belief system itself that becomes almost self-fulfilling. The subconscious says, okay, you believe that, that's fine, and I'll help you make it happen. And so that's why you have to change your belief system.
The way you state the intention, the viewer would state the intention, could clear it all up really quickly. This idea of judging for each other could really work.
Well, and it would be fun too. One of the things which I'm kind of always concerned about, because I saw it happen in the past in the club, the October 2004 club. I don't, all of you weren't around then, but is the boredom issue. Too much of the same thing. And working with another person almost gets rid of that automatically, because two people, they move through different places together, and as long as they're discussing it.
It's more fun.
Also, if you're changing it, I think it'll help get rid of the boredom issue. And, also becoming a judge a little bit will help. So a lot of what I'm doing now is also to try to remove the boredom issue as well. So Okay, but I do believe that working these other kind of arrangements, and after several months or a year or whatever, going to another arrangement um, would just be healthy, because you'll pick up different things. It'll reorder the way you're communicating with your subconscious, and so new stuff will come up. And I think all of that is so positive.
Marty.
Yeah.
So I do want to share something that I've been working on. I've been trying to eliminate the judge. Eliminate as in like not even have human judges judge your session.
Like Cass.
Well, Cass still uses humans to judge the session,
Right.
so I don't consider that not. It still has judges.
Okay, one step beyond that. Okay, super.
Right. I don't know. Have you guys seen my YouTube video of the project I worked on?
Well, yeah, unless there's a new, is that a video? I mean, we discussed this maybe a month or two ago.
Right. I discussed it with you and Chris, but I'm not sure if it was posted on the group. But
why don't you
I
put it
can
in the
show you.
chat box? Put it in the chat box now.
Sure. I mean, I can show you guys a demo. I mean, of
Okay,
it in action
oh,
if
that's
you
super.
guys want.
Oh, that's super. Let me give you the screen.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be great.
I mean, it's a really cool idea. I mean, basically having a computer judge your thing.
I agree.
I
I
mean,
agree.
let's see.
And that's because some people's belief system is I have a lousy judge, and it's myself.
Right.
And they'll even acknowledge it themselves. A lot of people tell me that they don't know how to judge.
Let's see. So I pasted a YouTube video of my stuff, but you guys can watch that later. But I can show you a demo of the thing in action. Basically, what you do is, let's just testing it out. Basically, what you do is you have two images. So, for example, in that example that you showed, you had a picture of a beach.
Mm-hmm.
So I just type in beach. And let's say that it's this image right here. I don't know. Let's take this one.
Okay.
Let's take that image. And let's put that here. And then you had an image of a clock. So something about a clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are limitations to it, but we can check it out right now. So we take that image location, and so those are the images that we're looking at.
All right.
And then we have psychic images or psychic descriptions. So a typical session might say something like, Sandy. We'll pretend that it's this clock.
Okay.
And so let's make up a session: round, circular, white, dog, pony, black, white. And we're just going to rig this, and we'll say clock. And basically what you do is you just process the image, and what it's doing in the background is it's selecting it. Okay, so it is using artificial intelligence to look at this image, and then it creates a list of perceptions of what this image is.
Now, how did it do that? It did it from the image, or did it do it from the word when you said beach?
It recognizes the image. It actually takes it. There's artificial intelligence to I guess you can just say image recognition. It's a whole new idea of like image recognition. I don't know how it does it. I
That's
just know
brand
that.
new. I mean, that's very new, because they've been working on that for many, many years.
Right, right. I mean, Google has been doing that for, you can see it in Google whenever you type in, dog. Behind it, it's it's able to find images and then somehow, based on, data, it recognizes images of dogs.
Oh,
And so
so
it's
those.
so it's kind of like technology behind that. I mean,
Okay.
that's a whole complicated thing, and I don't really want to get into it. But in general, the idea behind this is that we are using the current technology of image recognition, and we're trying to apply it for remote viewing. And so what's happening in the background is that um, the computer is looking at this image, and we're basically taking the information that it has on that image based on its understanding of what that image is. I don't know
I
if that makes sense.
No, that made perfect sense to me. I think
Okay.
that is so cool, and I definitely want to talk more about it. In fact, I'd like to have a
Right.
webinar on it because I think there'd be a lot of others. How far have you gone um, with this in terms of actually being able to apply it with ARV? It doesn't use sketches, so the viewing would be
Right.
words only, but that's okay.
Right.
How
Uh,
far has it gone?
well, I've been trying to I've been trying to uh, make it usable online, but there's just too many bugs, and I mean, I'd like to work on it more, but it's just like, a time thing, money thing. There's just um, it's a pet project that definitely has potential. Um, but yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that.
It
I'm just
works locally. In other words, on your machine, you can
yes, it
do an ARV. You can give a up, down, over, under football
right.
game.
I mean,
You can do that now,
basically, yeah. I mean,
working that
basically,
well. Okay.
you're just putting two images. You're putting two images, image A and then image B, and then you have your session data, your text, the data of your session, and from there, that's all you do. You just process the data, and then the computer does everything else.
And
Like,
where is the computer program that does the image recognition? Is that free? Did you have to pay for that?
you do have to pay for that, and because it uses processing power that it isn't free, but you're allotted a certain amount um, before you're getting charged as
Oh,
like kind of like a test thing. So like I can probably do like 500 processes before I get charged kind of thing every month.
oh, wow.
I don't know the exact number, but it's kind of that idea.
You haven't gotten to the point where you could you send me um, and maybe why don't you send it to the whole discussion group
Okay.
of
Well,
the links that are involved here. I mean, come on, this is fascinating. This is fascinating enough to me that maybe
right.
after App Fest, um, I may want to work with you to put this online. Because if it's a call to another program, there's no, where notice the two pictures I'd like it to use would be
Right.
the pictures from our set because I know they're different.
Exactly.
And
I
so
mean,
I could do the programming to connect that with what's on our server already.
mhm.
Um,
I
and
mean that's definitely possible to, you know, since you're already collecting scans or image data,
right.
uh, you can definitely integrate it with it, and then just basically have a what do you call it? Um, just have it use it, I guess,
Yeah.
and it would just use it automatically, and you wouldn't have to even look at it because you already have a program where it selects random images, and so theoretically, all you would need to do is create a interface where the remote viewer types in their remote viewing session,
Yep.
and
The words, and then the sketches almost all of us, I only knew one guy that predominantly did only words. I think there still might be some involved here. This one fellow I knew left. Most everybody uses a combination, but there'd be no reason we couldn't use this, get its prediction, and then look at the picture separately as a judge.
Right, right.
That
So,
would be fascinating.
mhm.
And who
So,
knows, maybe some people would want to just do words. They could just sit in
mhm.
front of it and do what you just did.
Right. I mean, here's another, I guess, demo of it. So we have the psychic perceptions, quote unquote, and we have the two images.
Mm-hmm.
And based on this data alone, you'd probably pick this as the
Yeah,
target.
sure.
And so we'll process this image, and the computer works behind, recognizes the images. Let's see, it's taking a while. Maybe it's a really big image. No, it's breaking. Let me see. So if the images are too big, it
Right.
slows down.
What we're seeing is a fixed size image, but the original could have been too big.
Right, right. Let's see. Let me look at the images by themselves. Oh wow, that's huge. Oh. Okay, let's get a different picture of a dog. Let me see this donkey. Okay, the donkey isn't too bad.
Stop it.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's stop it real quick.
I hadn't realized that the image recognition technology had gone this far.
Oh, right, right.
Thank you for
I mean,
sharing that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, theoretically, there's so much things that you could do with it. It would just take, you know, it would just take
Give me
time. I mean, we could do it, but time is just you know.
give me the link so I can also independently look at all this stuff. Okay, put it
Oh yeah, yeah.
and you'll send it to everybody, but I will definitely use it because I've been interested in this for many, many, many years.
Oh, nice, nice. Harry Brown. Let's see. I don't know if it'll break again.
No, I
Okay.
got it. Okay.
So I put dog in here, dog and donkey, just to show like we're trying to trick it, I guess. Not really trick it, but trying to force it to work. And so based on that data, it would select this.
Okay, it gave you the dog. Did it give you a percentage? Oh, it gave two
Right.
confidences.
Yeah. So
Right.
it recognizes a dog, but I mean, there's definitely some bugs into it. Like the reason why it has brown 3 times is because there's different aspects that it's recognizing. So it's recognizing the brown probably on this, and then there's brown in the outside. Like that part might not look brown to you, but if we look really close, this section right here, the computer might recognize that as probably brown. I'm not really sure, but
Okay, I accept it's not perfect.
right, right. So I mean, you can improve it with more artificial intelligence. So this one right here uses 1 artificial intelligence, but similarly how you can create, 1 judge, 2 judge, 3 judges, 4 judges, X amount of judges, you can theoretically have multiple artificial intelligent programs running at the same time to improve the accuracy.
Yep. Yep.
And but yeah, that's the idea. It even tells you like there's a 100. It is very confident that this is a beagle, like you see over here. All the perceptions.
Right, and it did that on its own.
Right, and this one right here, it thinks it's a cattle, but
yeah, still with the grass and grazing. It says cow too.
Right, and so it's not perfect, but it's definitely, if you couple this with like a human observer, I mean, there's definitely potential.
Yeah. You know, I think it's using more names than we would use in remote viewing, but it would be very interesting to pursue. And I definitely get that email in, Alexis. Thank you. God, I love these webinars because hopefully the learning goes both ways, but it certainly has for me. This is
Yeah.
really terrific, and Powell's idea. I mean,
Yeah.
to aggressively either do an ideogram and do special remote viewing sessions when you get the feeling that your sub is saying, "Hey, listen to me, listen to me." Both of these are just terrific new concepts for me, new ideas. That's great. Okay.
Well, that's all I have. I'll just give you back the screen, or
Now, well, anybody else, other comments? You know, I do try to limit these to 2 hours, and it's just about 2 hours, and felt good. Anybody else has anything else they want to ask or say?
It's just amazing. It's just all amazing. That was wonderful. Thank you, Lexus.
oh yeah, yes, yes. I unfortunately, like, I was very unhappy that it wasn't as accurate as I liked, so I stopped working on it, and yeah, so right now it's just there rotting away.
Yeah, no, I
Well,
would like to.
when you need a remote viewing group to try it out, let me know.
Okay.
And my intention right now is to do something with you and it. I mean, you know, you are the one who will bring me up to speed. But then I think, again, you know, your idea was standalone. My idea is to let people do their sketches also and use it as an adjunct. But who knows? Maybe standalone would be good enough, especially if a person goes in knowing all that they're allowed to do is words. And hey, subconscious, for this one, don't give me any sketches, just give me words. Anyway, this will get pursued, Alexis, and again, thank you for
Oh, nice.
bringing it to our attention. And I will be in touch. And please do share this with the app discussion group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you all for coming, and just keep precogging away.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Yeah, you're all very welcome. And I will end this now.